So yesterday I noticed there was a leak right here where the radiator hose is connected to the T. There's two hoses on top and one on bottom. I took it all apart yesterday to try to find where the leak was coming from. That included taking off all the clamps and taking out the T-piece, looking for cracks or breaks in it. Now there was no cracks or breaks in the T-piece yesterday, but I realized the clamp on the bottom hose was not clamping good enough. And the way that these clamps are, after a while they become less secure if they've been manipulated a lot. So I knew I wanted to replace the clamp. My father-in-law actually helped me put a different clamp on because I didn't have one. He brought it there to me. Unfortunately, while doing so, he accidentally tightened it too much, breaking the T, and I did not see it until the next day, today, when I was fixing it. And since that happened, this changed it from just replacing a clamp to replacing all of the clamps and the T-piece. I'm gonna speed it up a little because, you know, it's just a whole lot of movement. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you guys now, at any point if you're working on your car, you should make sure you're doing it while the car is cooled off. I was in a little bit of a rush. I knew it wasn't too hot, so I went ahead and did it. I don't recommend this for anyone else, so you'll see in a second why I don't recommend it. So here is where I took the risk that I knew it was going to be hot, but it wasn't too hot for me to mess with it. So everything was fine and dandy for me, but I don't recommend it for anyone else. Also, I was not really worried about the antifreeze pouring out. I already knew that that was going to happen, so there was a pan at the bottom to catch, and the rest would burn off. I rinsed it really quickly with soap and water. Don't recommend unless you know what you're doing. That way you don't hit anything with fuses or get it where it should not be. So here, I just take all the clamps off so I can get the piece out. And here is where I realized that he had clamped it too tight and it busted the bottom part that connects in the hose. Now this can be very bad for many situations. However, I got very lucky and the broken piece was still in the hose at the end. So I had to struggle to get it out a little bit, but I had to make sure that that piece did not go down in that hose. Luckily, I was able to get that piece out, so then I moved on to taking the clamps off. That way I could replace it with new clamps. So going with the new T connector, if you look, the old one, the broken one, does not have a lot of grooves where those clamps sit in there. It is one groove on the end and that is it. It easily slides. You don't want to deal with that. On the new T connector, I made sure it had multiple of the grooves in it where the clamps go and at the front where it meets the hose. So then I just went through and put the new clamps on and I made sure that I did not over tighten them. I started from bottom up because it's just a little bit easier to access it from there. So once those were put on, it was time to add more antifreeze and also burp the system to get any air out of the system that was let in while doing the repairs. I also cleaned off the T, that way I could make sure, in the hoses, that way I could make sure to check for leaks when it was going, what was there and what wasn't already there. Burping is very important after working on this. You do not want air left in the lines, and you do not want air getting shoved back through there. So make sure you do not skip that step. There are tools you can use to burp the system, but I just use the true and tried version of turning the car on, putting the heat on blast. That way the fluid is circulating through it, leaving the cap off. It will bubble up, and then I played with the hoses a little bit to burp the hoses too. I also burped the hose at the front of the truck, connecting directly to the radiator. Once all that was said and done, I revved the truck up, I kept the heat on high, I looked for leaks, did not see any leaks. I let the truck run for 15 minutes afterwards just to verify, and then checked on it again, but we are A-okay, there's no more leaks, and we're